Welcome to the Nursing Mother's Room. I am your host, Regina. I have my dear friend Kaleigh with me, and she is a wife, mother, pastor, worship leader, and we are going to be diving into family and ministry today. So wherever you are, I'm so glad you're here, and welcome. It's going to be good.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
Oh man, it's been wild.
I like the name, by the way, the Nursing Mother's Room.
Yeah.
So much goes down in the Nursing Mother's Room.
Literally, that's where I had felt like so lost for so many things because obviously being like church staff and stuff, now I have a baby and trying to manage everything, and then it's like I don't even get to be in services, and it's like I'm there from 7 a.m. till like 2 p.m., 3 p.m. some days, and then I'm like just in the Nursing Mother's Room, literally.
You know, such great imagery. You're
crazy,
there, but
literally.
you're separate, and it really is like a beautiful picture of how becoming a mother feels like, where I'm still involved. I didn't die. Okay. You know, but still I feel detached to a degree. And there's this kind of relearning who you are in this new phase with this 100%. New, you know, it's not an identity crisis, but it's an identity shift. And there's like very real things and very real paradigms that kind of have to shift to keep up. I love the name. Yeah.
No, so it was wild. So I actually was able to start having a lot of conversations with like other moms who were going through similar things and similar seasons and stuff in their marriages, stuff with the kids, stuff with, you know, just managing life in general. And I really started to feel like, okay, like I'm not missing God because I'm not in the service. I'm still meeting him right here. Like this right now is where the Lord has me, and I'm going to steward while I have this, what I have. And so many of the conversations that I've had with moms in the literal Nursing Mother's Room at the church has been like life-changing. Like has shifted my perspective on motherhood, has helped me be a better mom, and really just made me feel like, okay, I can do this and I'm not alone. And so I really feel and have felt that the Nursing Mother's Room itself is like kind of this thing of like you're kind of put on the back burner, you're kind of put, away, and it doesn't have to be that way. I feel like sometimes that's how it is with motherhood. Like we have to put everything else aside to be moms, but it's like, no, we're still a part of this, so so it's been great. But so jumping into that already, you have been pretty much in ministry your like entire relationship, right, with you and Jathan? Like from the beginning.
Well, technically, can I tell the story?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
It's a long story. It's going to be a 5-hour podcast.
Great. That's what we're here for.
Jathan, so I worked at a church. I found the Lord at church A, and then I got hired at church B as a worship leader. And I wasn't going to go because I'm a very loyal girl. You know what I'm saying? But then the Lord was like, you didn't even ask me, you know? So anyways, the Lord sent me to church B, and it was so pivotal for really so much. I learned it was my back hills of Bethlehem, you know? I really honor that house. But 2 years into it, the Lord said, I'll bless you if you stay. I'll bless you if you go, but it's your decision to make. And so I realized that the Lord had told me about kind of being a worship leader, like vocationally, you know? And, but I had this thing in my heart of like, you're the promise, not a job, you know? Like, I don't ever want to get the calling confused with the assignment, you know? Yeah. I'm called to him, and I'm assigned to tasks, you know? And so anyways, I was like, Lord, I know you, I know your character. If I lay what looks to be the promise down, it'll provoke you. I know it. Like, I just know your heart. I know how you feel about faith. So if in faith I lay what looks to be like the thing down and say, you're actually what I'm after and you're what I'm pursuing. If this isn't disobedience to lay it down, you know, if you're giving me the option, then I choose to lay what looks like to be the promise down so that I can see what else you have in store, you know? And so I can see like all of the, anyways, so I did. And 2 weeks later, the last day of, or my very last service at Church B, I went to church A to pay my roommate rent because I lived with the lady from the church, and I met Jathan there. She's like, well, let me introduce you to the sound guy, our new sound guy for this campus. And I was like, hello. I'm trying to get with this guy. And the rest is history. Yeah. But he basically, I led worship, he ran sound. And so we literally met in the church with him running sound. And from there, I avoided him for the longest time. And he like was running sound when I led worship. And that's when he was like, hey, you should let me help you move.
Oh, that's
rest
so
is
funny.
history, you know?
I love it.
We've
Absolutely
been doing,
love
but
it.
when we got married, because we had he worked for the church. I was just a super volunteer. And when we got married, the Lord told us to move to Dallas, and we knew nothing, but we were like, we're never working for ministry ever again. This is the worst. So we pinky promised each other as we left, we'll never work for another ministry. I don't care if we're homeless, like this. No, we're not doing it. And Jesus laughed, you know.
I love that.
And we got to Dallas, and you know, that's how we got connected to Lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it was funny because in his interview, because we didn't say ministry, we said we're never working for another church again, because we didn't really have the concept of ministry. We were in Lubbock; it's a small town, you know. So when we got to Dallas, and he interviewed for Lifestyle, he was like, the only thing is I promised my wife I would never work for another church again. Like, this is like a big deal to us, is we're never working for another church. And they're like, we're not a church, so it's fine. We're a ministry.
Yeah.
And he was like, you know what? We'll take it. And we're like, yeah, that counts, you know? So that's how we got connected to Pastor William and all this stuff. And we got pregnant with our first baby in Dallas. And, you know, it's been a crazy road.
Yeah. I remember even those like early days when, you know, you're like having to be at church super early, and you got girl. Campbell, and there were times where you're just like, here, somebody hold her, like,
not
I have
times.
to be on stage.
Not times. She's being humble. Every time I literally was like, Reggie. And because I didn't know, you don't know up from down when you're in, you know, postpartum. And I love what the Lord has given us. I love the church. I love the local church so much. I love being a worship leader. I love pastoring, you know. And so I had Campbell 2 weeks later. I'm itching to get back in the prayer room. And not because I'm a workaholic, but because I love the prayer room, and I want my daughter raised in. So she's raised in the prayer room, but also I'm like, wait, how do I lead? So for the longest time, I would just have her strapped on. Like I had a baby carrier. But then there's this moment where, you know, they roll over for the first time and you're like, yay! And then they start crawling and you're like, yay! And then you realize what that means. Yeah. And you're like, wait, you can move now. Yeah. And they start opening things and unplugging cables. Campbell, this is a 100% true story. She turned off the PA in the middle of worship when we were at Risen Nashville. It was like the middle of worship. It was a big moment, and Sweet Campbell just pressed the power button. Everything went. So okay, I'm trying to figure that out. Poor Reggie. This was pre RJ. I was like, Reggie, you want the baby carrier? And so I'd be leading worship, and Reggie's like taking pictures with Campbell. She got her like a little wooden camera that she still plays with. To this day, she loves it. She's obsessed with it. Thank God for the village. You know, I didn't know how to ask for help back in the day, but I feel like who you are, it was just you were just like I think our soul's similar, you know.
Well, it's so funny because I remember even the first time, because during that time and stuff, I hadn't been officially hired on as staff yet, but we were like already integrated with so many things. And right after you went on maternity leave was like real close, right after June 12th, when everything exploded at the church. And then it was like Ryan ended up having to be like just kind of everything. And it's like, here you go, take it over, you know.
Welcome to ministry.
You know? So it was like he was doing all the prayer rooms, doing all the services, doing everything. And then it was like you came back, and then it was the first service at the one that we had at Burning Lamp, but it was King Jesus back then. And you were leading worship. Jathan was helping with sound, and he was holding Campbell for a second, and I was standing off to the side kind of next to Jathan, and I had met you guys, but I hadn't like really like known you guys yet. And Josie was there too, and Josie had like, she was holding Campbell for a second, And I think she had to help Pastor William, or Pastor Emily was leaving or something. And she had Campbell and then passed her over to Jathan. Jathan was about to run to go do something, and he literally looks at me and he's like, can you hold her? And I was like, oh, sure. So I just like, I'm just standing there just holding her, literally had no idea, nothing. And then she had like fallen asleep on me. And then after service, you guys were all like tearing down all the stuff. And then you came over and sat down and you're like, oh, you've had my baby this whole time, you know? And I was like, I did not take her. She's right here. I got her, you know? And it was just hilarious that I was just like she just felt so comfortable. I just felt so comfortable. And then the rest was history. Like, oh my goodness. Every time after that, I just always had Campbell. And it was so funny because since then, everybody has always seen me with a baby strapped to me. Because then after Campbell, my sister had Reagan, and then same thing with Reagan. I would be up there taking photos, doing stuff, and I'd have a baby strapped to me, you know?
But this wasn't the case, like, before Campbell?
No.
Whoa!
No. Campbell was literally, like, the first baby that I was, like, running around with, you know?
What?
Yeah.
I figured we have this friend, Josie, who's just, like, she's single, but she's, like, the mom to everyone. She's the best. Yep. She can fix anything. She can calm any child. Like, this is 100% true. My first, maybe 4 months of being a mom, I would not know how to calm my own child down. And I would think to myself regularly, should I call Josie? I'm like, don't do it. Just figure it out, girl. But I always assumed you were this way.
Yeah.
That you were just always a baby whisperer.
I always was like with kids and stuff, but like at the church, like I had just kind of like, I had been a nanny, I had all this stuff, but then I was like really like, you know, if I didn't like know people or like know them like with their kids, I was like trying to, you know, like be very cautious and stuff. So it was just so funny that it was just like, Jathan's like, here, like hold her, and I was like, okay, like I got her, you know, and
like,
stuff.
Help
and so
us.
it was great, but that was like the funniest thing. And so for me, it was just like always like that anytime I was around and like the kids were around, you know, I would just be like ready and able, you know.
I'd feel so guilty about it. Oh, I'd feel so guilty about it. And I would like put like a blanket out and all the toys, but you don't know how to balance.
Yeah.
Because I don't really like, now I don't really believe in balance or balancing. I think that but at the time I was like, I have to figure out all these, you know, I have to learn how to juggle it. And the problem with juggling is you can have it up, but then it'll come down, you know? And then what if you drop it? And I'm not dropping a baby, I promise.
No, for sure.
But like there were moments with Campbell where I 100% dropped the ball. Our live recording was one of those moments where I 100%, I was so consumed with getting the tasks done, and I wanted to get everything done right and all this stuff, and I just forgot like we should get childcare. And so Josie was there, and she was going to be a part of the night, and I was like, I am so sorry, can you hold Campbell? And she was like, yeah, okay. But Campbell had a bad night, and she was just screaming the entire like 4 hours that we were recording, and that was like a come to Jesus moment for me of like, okay, I can't just. But I would feel so guilty because I'm like, well, I want to be fully a mom, but also fully a minister. And I don't actually know how to do that. So if I'm being fully a minister, I feel like it was almost an afterthought to be like, oh, hey, Reggie, can you do the thing? You know? And thank God for the Reggies and the Josies of the world and the women who are willing to come alongside of you when you're figuring it out. Because I truly was figuring it out, you know?
Because it's like, yes, like this is like, you know, your heart and stuff too, but it also was a job at the time too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, you want to do well, you want to do these things. And like, thank God being in a place that like you could bring your kid, you know what I mean?
Oh.
Like having your child like with you,
I pinch myself regularly.
It would be like crazy. And that's why like Ryan and I are just so blessed and stuff too, that like, you know, we had RJ and we told Pastor Costi, hey, we need a couple weeks. And he's like, please, you know,
by all means.
But then for Ryan and stuff too, it was like, he took 2 Sundays off after I had RJ, and then he's like, I'm gonna go back. And I was like, yeah, like you're good, because it's like Sunday's like the most important day, you know what I mean? So it was like Sunday wasn't, for him to be gone for those few hours wasn't like life or death for us, because I had more time with him during the week, you know 100%. What I mean? And so it was like great to have that. But I just like always like laugh, like one of the main things that I wanted to talk with you about was that I've seen so many people that they're like, it has to be one or the other. It has to be ministry or it has to be family. Like that there's literally like, you know, you're either, you know, you're giving a little bit here, you're spreading yourself thin, you're doing this and that with your family and different things and stuff. And it's like where I'm at with it, where we've been even just over this past year with RJ, it's like I'm at the place even, and I had a conversation with Pastor Costi, with Pastor Jamie, about like my role and different things and stuff. And I was like, I'm at the place to where like my heart is to be here, but if my son needs me, my son has to come first.
100%.
Like if my son is sick, I'm going to be home with him, you know? And
Yeah.
so I always think like it's funny when people are just like, oh yeah, ministry or family, like one or the other, you know?
Oy. I think, like I think of Abraham sacrificing Isaac and the Lord asking him for that, which would have been like culturally not that out of the ordinary. Like child sacrifice was the thing. I think that story is so packed and loaded full of a lot of incredible principles and incredible like nuggets of the Lord's character. But what I've taken from that is the Lord actually isn't going to ask you to like give your child on the altar of ministry. Like he actually doesn't ask you to kill your family, you know? And in fact, that's like counter. You see in First and Second Kings, where a lot of the time when the Lord's talking about kings who are really like, he's like, they've done evil in this side. When he gives details, a lot of the times he's like, and this nation worship this God, and this nation worship this God, and this God had child sacrifice, you know, like, and I think in that moment with Abraham and the Lord saying no and actually providing a ram, I think there's so much to that. But I think one of the things is like, I'm actually not going to ask you to kill your son, you know? It was a test to show Abraham what the Lord already knew to be true of his heart, you know? 100% I believe that. But I don't believe that the Lord is going to ask you to kill your family for the sake of ministry.
Wow.
I think that you pick up your cross and you lay down your life, and 100% like my old man is dead. Like so I think that there's a truth of it's no longer I who live. So I don't get to live. And I think that I get to pull my kids and pastor my kids into falling in love with Jesus, and that in turn will be, and you get to lay your life down too. But it's not this thing of, sorry, I have to minister and now, you know, you're never going to see me. And I think this is why there's the reputation that pastors' kids have, you know? Yep. And I don't think that has to be true. I've met so many incredible pastors. Pastor William, his family is incredible. Like his children genuinely love Jesus. And so I've asked him, like, okay, how do you do ministry and yet your kids still fall in love with Jesus? Like, how are you doing ministry and you don't have the stereotypical pastor's kid? Anytime I see a pastor who has children that love the Lord and aren't that stereotype, I always ask, and they always have the same response. It has to be real to you. It has to be real to you. And then they'll see the real thing. Yeah. So what that means to me and how I've translated that is, if it's real to me, I've laid down my life. Yeah. Like it is no longer I who live. You know, if it's real to me, I'm spirit led. I'm not being driven by how much influence can I get? How can I build my ministry? How can I build my name? Yeah. If it's real to me, then my priority and what drives me is Jesus and Jesus alone. Yeah. And my daughters will see this to be true in my everyday life. They'll see me weeping over the scriptures. They'll see me praying about hard decisions. They'll see me worshiping and on my knees, just in the same way that my worship team will see me on the floor, you know, crying out to the Lord. My daughters will see this to be true as well. And they'll have this thing in their heart of like, no, Jesus is real, you know? Yeah. And now all of a sudden, they're getting invited into, now you give them your life. Yeah. Now you lay your life down. And now the decisions we make as a family of, do I go? Do I stay? Now they're actually getting invited into this too. Yeah. When we moved from Nashville to Florida, like this is what the Lord has called us to, you know, but it's hard. Yeah. It's hard. It's costly. It's costly for not just myself and my husband, but for my daughters too. And, you know, she's 2 at the time, but like, I'm still asking her, no, you pray about this with us, you know? I don't think it has to be mommy does ministry and then you're a kid and now I'll pay attention to you. No, you're my first ministry. This is my first church. And so like, I'm going to invite you into this because this is real to me. I want it to be real to you. And so it's funny, we sent Jathan to pray, and we all, the day before, we're like, okay, we're going to buy Jathan a ticket to go to Florida so he can sit in Florida and seek the Lord on our family's behalf and say, is this what you're saying, Holy Spirit? Or is it logical to us? Or are we trying to escape discomfort? Or, you know, like, would a yes to this be flesh, or is it rooted in surrendered life? And so we drop him off at the airport at 4 a.m, and I just casually asked Campbell, hey, what did you dream about last night? Did you dream about anything? And she was like, the ocean, the beach. And Jathan and I both are like, oh. There is no junior Holy Spirit. And she's been a part of ministry since day one. And that doesn't mean I force her to come to church and then I, kill her on the altar of ministry. But it means that Jesus is real to my daughter. She's actually born in Zion. Jesus speaks to my daughter. And I honor the Jesus that lives inside of my daughter, because he does. And so before he even got on the plane, we knew it was a yes. We're literally sitting in the airport, departures. And we're like, okay, we're going to pray over Daddy. Oh, did you dream about anything last night? The beach. All right. Well, the Lord spoke, but have fun in Florida, I guess. Pray more, I don't think it has to be this separate thing. And I think a lot of times when we get overwhelmed, it's because we feel like I have to balance being a mom and church. But I think being a mom is ministry. And church is family. Now, I think you need to prioritize correctly. I think that your family always needs to come, before a congregation, But at the end of the day, when Jesus is central and when I'm being led by the Spirit, he's not going to lead me to neglect my child. He's not going to lead me to shove her in a corner and leave her hurt and confused, He'll always be a good shepherd, and that includes to my daughter. He'll be a better father, a better mother to my children than I could ever possibly be. And so he'll lead me in ministering to her, just as he leads me in ministering to you guys or to any congregation. He's faithful,
Yeah, literally. No, I love that. I think of back when Pastor William and Pastor Costi have talked about it, about how like when they were young, it wasn't this thing of like their dad was going away and they were like left behind. It was like, no, we're doing this together as a family. We're sending him, and like we're in full support about this. And I don't know, I grew up in that too, of like the ministry life and stuff. And my parents were even at the point to where they were like asked to be pastors at some points. And they were like, we're not going to do it for the sake of our kids, because a lot of the pastors' kids were very much like neglected. They were kind of like just left to like, here you go, you're at church all day, every day, figure it out and stuff. And then, then it's like they wonder why, kids would walk away from the church when they like get it into high school and college and stuff like that. And they finally have like freedom, And it was just always sad to see that, because even people that I grew up with, that it's like, we sat in the same classes, we were taught the same things, we were homeschooled together, we did all these things. And it's like, just to see where people have gone, it's not a thing to judge, but it's just kind of like, what happened?
What's
and I just know that for me, it's like I knew who the Lord was to me.
He was real to you.
I knew who he was to me at a young age, and he revealed himself to me. And I could never stray from that. It was like, my parents didn't want me to have sex before marriage, but it was like, I chose not to do that because I was being honoring to the Lord and to my future husband.
Yeah.
I had that conviction for myself, and I was also scared to get pregnant or get an STD, you know what I mean? Or
Praise
just
God.
like practical stuff, you know what I mean?
She had wisdom.
So it's like, even with just those things that like you think about, and it's like, okay, there are consequences to my actions, but like in reality, what is the bigger picture? You know? And I just think of, those situations and people that I grew up with, and it's like my heart breaks because it was like, you're so close.
Yeah.
You're so close to just experiencing this and just realizing this. And it makes me sad that it's like, even for parents, it's like they think that they're doing what's best for their kids, but it's like, but you're missing it too. Like, you're really like, yes, we're called to serve the church. Yes, we're called to do these things. But it's like Paul in the Bible said that, like, if you can't get your house in order, you have no business leading. You have no business doing any of these things. You know what I mean? But I think a lot of people are not ready for those conversations. And there's so many people and pastors that it's like a lot of them really just wanted influence. And it's like, start a podcast. You want to have influence?
Don't.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. You can build yourself a platform really easy these days when the Lord never gave you authority to have a platform, when you don't have covering to have a platform, when you don't have weight on your words, when it will not benefit the body to hear what's going to come out of your mouth. So keep it shut, sis. Like, just because you have a microphone doesn't mean you need to be talking about anything. And I know this is harsh, but there are people based on the state of their family that biblically they are disqualified to lead in ministry.
But I think a lot of people aren't ready to have that conversation either. And it's so crazy to see. And it's like, I think a lot of people with their influence are influencing a lot of people astray as well. And like the day and age of social media, and just people can go out and make a claim and say these things, and people are like, oh, maybe Adam and Eve weren't the only people in the garden. And they're like, oh, maybe this, maybe that. And nobody goes beyond the reels or the TikToks, and it's like, maybe we should do a little more research into this. You know what I mean?
When we lack fathers and mothers, we'll find, because we crave them. We should. We're created for family. We're created for, so when we lack them, we look for them. So we have a generation that has been fathered and mothered with podcasters and influencers and people with a false platform. And I think that the Lord will give us over to what we crave. And I think that the American church has shown that we crave false prophets. We crave false teachers. And please forgive me for being so intense, but like, I think we care more about our feelings. I think that we like the teachers and the prophets who will tell us things to tickle our ears and make us feel special and warm, rather than cutting us like a father and mother in love would, in relationship, in health. And so I think we've fallen in love with the teachers that will take scriptures out of context to be like, babe, the pain in your life isn't because of the sin leads to death. No. It's because hell is so threatened by you that, you're so special that they're coming against you now. And it's like, no, you have a porn problem. And so, you're going to have relationship issues. It's not because nobody understands you, because you're so, we're just not willing to say the hard things because we lack fathers and mothers, and we have all of these boy leaders, the scriptures say, these boy teachers, the scriptures say. And so we find them anywhere, yet they don't have the backing of the authority of Jesus. They don't read their Bible. They don't have covering themselves. And so there's a weight to being a mother. There's a weight to being a father. And there's this unspoken, like, mothers, we're long suffering. My daughter can pull the hair out of my head and scratch me in the face. She doesn't have to worry if she's going to get her next meal, because you know what I'm saying? Like, there's something to a genuine father and mother in the spirit that's weighty, that you're not going to find with just anyone who has any sort of platform or any sort of microphone, who's, like, made one for themselves, made a name for themselves. And these days, it is so easy to make a name for yourself without the backing, without the authority and the release of, first of all, Jesus, second of all, the covering of a local church, and leaders who are actually in your life. So we have all these people who have fallen in love with false teachers and false prophets. And I think this is why I think the Lord's given us over to what we've loved. I think this is why the American church is so saturated with false teachers, because we like to have our ears tickled. But the discipline of a father legitimizes you as a child. And so you'll find legitimate sons and daughters who actually crave correction, who actually crave the discipline and truth and not just what makes me feel good.
Yeah.
But like, no, there's a psalm that says, these bones you've broken will praise you. I love that, because this is what my soul feels like, of like, Lord, correct me, prune me. I love your discipline. And from this place, I see the fruit of it. I see the strength behind it. These bones you've broken will praise you. I'll bless you. You know, boundaries make kids feel safe. Anyways, we could talk about this all day.
I love it.
I'll calm down.
I love it. No, but I think too, like, of just how important the dynamic of family is in literally every aspect. Like, I could not trust a leader that does not have a father, like a covering, spiritual father covering over them.
Accountability matters.
Other people, you know what I mean? Because again, we've seen what it looks like in other leaders when they don't have that, and the things that happen, and how people let, you know, the fame or the money or the influence get to their heads. And how they think they can just do whatever. They think they're above God, above the law, above these situations. And, you know, with so many people over the last couple years in their fallen ministries and fallen from grace and all these different things, Ryan and I have talked about it, and Ryan has literally been like, I really believe that we're in a season to where the ministry centered around a person are being dismantled, because again, we will
Praise
want
God.
for no man,
But
and
Jesus,
it's gonna be redirected to the Lord, and people are gonna be coming back to a ministry or to a church or to a community or to a family for the Lord. And I'm like baffled at so many people in so many situations, even people that like we've known and that, you know, have spoken at the church, and people that we've like been close to. And, you know, I see these situations and it breaks my heart, and I'm just like, how in the world? And it's so sad for so many reasons, but one of the biggest things I think too is not only the like influence and like looking up to somebody, but I think it literally is when you have these leaders that are like pouring into you, that are helping shape your view of the Lord, helping guide you in these things, helping teach you, and you see them, that it's like, well, you're proving that you're not following that yourself. It's like so detrimental for so many people, because they're like, I was looking to you as an example, and now I'm shaken. And now again, that's why I believe that, you know, people need to be putting their trust only in the Lord and not in man, right? They're still people, they're still fallen, you know, all these things. But I think that that's why it's been so frustrating too for a lot of people, because one, they see God in the same light as their earthly father, and then the people or teachers or ministers that they've like looked up to, that have like taught them, that have grown them, that have shown them the way, have also failed them, you know. And so I just see it that it's like, again, in the same dynamic of a family, your family is not perfect. No, they're gonna fail you. There's gonna be,
I failed you, you know, and that's just the reality of humanity. But I think that there is there's also this truth of like, but love covers a multitude of sins. It's actually important that I have a pastor over me, you know, that's speaking into my life. You know, it's important that I have humility to say, Reggie, I've wronged you. I'm sorry. Like, that was wrong of me. I'm so sorry. It wasn't my intention to hurt you, but it doesn't mean that I didn't, you know? And I think that we're lacking humility in leadership. But I will say, I agree with what you're saying. We've seen so many leaders fall for lack of accountability, for lack of fathers and mothers. But I think that I've also seen so many leaders like absolutely soar because of the presence of a father and mother. However, when you fall, it's oftentimes very visible, very messy, very loud. But when I see fathers and mothers, oftentimes are not flashy. They're not boasting. Like, I even like how Paul's like, I could boast, but I won't. What will it get me? But if anyone could, like, I love that. I think that the question is, what satisfies you, or who satisfies you? I think that the problem is, like, is Jesus enough for you, or are you craving other things as well? Like, does your soul need your community to be your God, low-key, you know? Because then all of a sudden someone wrongs you and you're questioning the character of God and leaving the church over it. rather than walking in grace and forgiveness and remembering I've been forgiven of much, so let me forgive. You know, like, is Jesus enough for you, or do you need comfort, low key? Like the second finances get tight, all of a sudden, is he Jireh, or well, maybe and all of a sudden things go wonky fast, or is he enough for you, or like when he speaks and you have to hold on to that word. And hold on to that word and hold on to that word. And it's been a minute, you know. Now all of a sudden, are we looking for any sort of sound, any sort of thing that sounds remotely like, and now all of a sudden we'll receive anything that it doesn't even have to be rooted in the word, doesn't have to be his character. Someone said, Jesus says this, and we're like, yep, sure, okay. Because we don't know how to hear him for ourselves. And now all of a sudden we're getting filled by, this is what I'm saying, where it's like, okay, he'll give you what you, he'll give you like over to what you're craving, you know? And so people will shake their fist at God and saying like, well, how could you do this to me? But he never chose that for like, you walk down that road. I think it's Romans 2 that talks about, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure Romans 2 that talks about he gave them over to the desires of his flesh. I forget, there's no, it was C.S. Lewis, I think, that said like, hell's locked from the inside. You know, like not the outside. Like you walked yourself, you made your decision. It's not, God's not out to get you. Like he's not against you. He's actually for you, and he's actually calling you. But the thing is, like, I think that we've learned all this religious language. We've learned that Jesus, you satisfy me, you're enough for me. Except for that, we have uncontrolled cravings that we feed into, and we allow to push us certain directions rather than saying, no, Jesus, you're enough. So now all of a sudden offense is an absolute cancer in the church, where people, if they get offended, all of a sudden are deconstructing. And I'm like, was your faith built on something other than the word then? Like, what is the foundation for this faith that you could just get offended? Even the ability to get offended. I feel like, are you dead? Already? Because how could they kill you if you're already dead? How could they steal from you if you have nothing? If you have no rights, how can you be wronged? And I'm not saying that that means that anyone can do anything. No, there's like, you know, there's still the fruit of the Spirit, and there's still Matthew 18. There is still a biblical path to, no, you hurt me, like, let's talk about it. But what is not okay is I feel some type of way, and now I start leaning on false comforts. Now I start running to truly false gods, false comforts, false assurances, false hopes, false whatever you want to call it. And we call it good, but it's not him. And sometimes there is beauty in waiting and trusting him even when I don't know, and not running to a false comfort, but saying, Lord, you said, and I'm still. Like, I will be still. I know that you are God. Sometimes there's beauty in, I'm in pain right now. Like, I'm hurting. But Lord, I want to know you in the power of your resurrection and join you in the fellowship of your suffering.
Last thing, we have this segment on here where we do, we talk about, we call it Real Talk.
Yes.
We go over a reel. I'm not sure if you saw it yet, the one that we had.
Yes, I watched it.
Okay. So for the viewers at home, I will play it for you.
You're leading worship, and I was getting ready for worship to go to sound check, and I had a hard day with the kids. I was not doing well emotionally and grumbling. And I just kind of mumbled under my breath, mommy hat off, worship hat on, you know, just kind of a stupid phrase I said to prepare my heart for worship. Bill, my father-in-law, kind of leaned towards me and he said, the problem is the worship hat should have never come off. It really course corrected my view of life, that worship wasn't just what we did or even something musical. It really was our whole life. So whether I'm changing my baby's diaper or I'm leading on a stage for thousands, that my whole life is worship. Every detail of it, my lifestyle is worship.
But it's basically where Jen Johnson of Bethel is talking about how she had a conversation with her. she was driving somewhere and was going to be, you know, going to like lead worship or something. She had all her kids with her, and it was just a crazy time. And Bill Johnson, her father-in-law, was with them, and he basically was in the car and stuff. And she like motioned to him and was like, okay, I'm taking off the mom hat and putting on the worshiper hat. Yeah. And his response literally has like stuck with me, and how he said, the problem is that you took off like your worshiper hat to begin with. And it literally just kind of culminates of how being a mom, a worshiper, all these things is not meant to be compartmentalized. They're not meant to be separate things. It all like coincides in the body, and with just like what we're called to do as like mothers, and being worshipers and being surrendered. And I don't know, I just love that. And I think kind of back to what you were saying about being a mom, and it's like we're doing this as a family. Like it's not just you. It's not just your husband. It's not both of you. It's you guys and your kids. Yeah.
I love that clip, and I totally agree. I would say, not contradicting it, but in addition to it, I would say, when did being a mom ever stop being worship? You know, like when did motherhood, just because it's messy, just because it doesn't look like a slow song with lifted hands, you know, that doesn't mean that that's less worship, you know. I think the moments where, like I even think recently, Campbell shattered a plate that I had, and I was able to like show her mercy, you know, and grace, but then also sit with her and say, okay, like, do you think this is too big? Like I intentionally didn't clean up the plate, you know, to get her to stop panicking. I'm like, when we find peace, then I'll clean it up. But I'm just going to sit with you. So we sat, and I'm like, okay, wow, like it broke. And she's like, it broke. I'm like, do you think like this will be too hard for me to clean up? Like you think it's too much? She's like, no. I'm like, well, yeah, because remember the one time the dog pooped all over the house and I cleaned that up, you know? You remember that time? She's like, yeah, actually, yeah, I do remember that. I'm like, yeah. And you know, like, you matter so much more to me than a plate, you know? And she's like, yeah. And we'd sit in silence, and she'd be like, I love you. And I love you. And okay, well, I'm going to clean it up now. And, you know, and I would clean it up for her. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm going to give her another ceramic plate instead of a paper one or a plastic one and all this stuff. And like the Lord is speaking to me as a daughter. Like I'm the one who has the cracked plate, you know, like I don't think worship is just a song. You know, I think it's this continual posture of your heart, and this heart that's so in love with Jesus. I don't even think it's the decisions that you make. Like sometimes people say worship isn't the song, but it's the decisions that you make day to day. I think it's the heart that inspired the decisions. I think it's the surrendered heart that is that provokes the love-filled decisions, you know? Yeah. And I think that in those moments, as silly as my daughter cracking a plate, I think that I'm encountering the Lord just the same as I'm like parenting my daughter, you know? Yeah. And as I'm parenting her, the Lord's speaking to me and saying like, do you think this is too messy for me? Do you remember the time where the dog crapped all over the house? You know, you remember how faithful I've been, you know? These things are not, these things are they hold hands. I don't think that they're different. I think, you know, me teaching my daughters how to sing Open My Eyes, Lord, I Want to See Jesus, and singing that in a quiet room on a rocking chair is just as much worship as me screaming it on a microphone, you know, leading worship for a congregation, which is just as much worship as me changing a diaper and praying over my child and giving her to the Lord. Like, like, you know, I don't think motherhood ever stopped being worship. Yeah. I think you can stop worshiping. I think that's the state of your heart. I don't think it's an action, you know?
I love that. Oh, amazing. I feel like we could talk forever. Literally, we could just keep talking and talking and talking. And
I do be yapping.
Yeah,
We're
I
yappers,
love
even
it.
me.
I
You
love
know?
it. Yeah, I love it. And we don't always get to do this.
I know.
You're always like, you know, you had to go all the way to Florida. You know,
Yeah,
and
I treasure it.
we had to stay in Texas.
You
and-
came to Florida and we were out of town.
I
was like, what are the
know,
odds?
I know.
What are
It
the
wasn't
stinking
fun,
odds?
but yeah.
Ugh, oh well.
Well, I'm so glad that we got to do this, and I'm
Yes.
so thankful to have you. And
Oh.
I am, again, we're rooting for you from Texas
Aw.
and all the way in Florida. And we may have to actually come down because
When I'm in town
I
next
miss the beach.
Yeah,
I miss the
please.
beach. We need to
I
come
told
down.
Ryan in the car, I'm like, it is my sole purpose on this trip to convince Reggie to take a Florida vacation and hang out with us in
Down.
Florida again.
Down. We are so down.
Oh, we love
We
you
can't
guys.
wait.
We
But
love you
yeah,
guys so
I'm
much.
so thankful we were able to do this.
Oh, same. Thanks for having me.
Of course, always. So I hope that you guys enjoyed our time today. I pray that you found something to resonate with from this. And if you have any questions or want to share your story with us, please let us know. You could find our email down below or hit us up on social media. And we will see you next time right here in the Nursing Mothers Room.
Bye-bye.